people to kind of like, thanks, Marie. We kind of want people to really kind of focus on solutions. We spent a lot of time in our work groups taking a look at the issues. And we know that the slides we went through were very general. So what we could do, I think we can do this, Marie, I hope I'm not skipping over something. We could probably put the slide back up on professional pathways and technical assistance, just so we sort of have that in our mind's eye and go over them really quickly again before we start the actual discussion. So as I said earlier, you know, looking at restructuring the credentialing and certification systems, right, with OEC and SDE. That's teacher licensure with State Department of Education, covering, they have a birth decay certification and a pre-K to grade 3. Both are integrated special education. The Office of Early Childhood has an early childhood teacher credential that we oversee. We also have other things like head teacher. We have technical assistance provider approval coming up. So be thoughtful of the range of things when we're talking about that bullet. And thinking about the competencies, professional competencies from NAEYC as the basis for our in-service. And then be thinking about ways to fund the actual system. How do we expand higher education and make sure our faculty are supported and we're able to recruit faculty that are needed in order to support the group. So that's there to kind of keep us focused. We'll leave it up for another minute or two while I go through the questions really quickly to get you thinking. So here are the 3 questions that are going to guide our time together. In general, what are your overall reactions to, thank you, I forgot it was on a slide. So in general, what are the overall reactions to the professional pathways and technical assistance? Think about leadership. What role can early childhood leaders play in establishing quality, equitable, and accessible professional pathway and technical assistance system? And what would be your first steps if you were to implement these proposals? So those are the first questions. And I'll do my best to sort of answer any questions that you may have. I just want to remind folks, we have not thought about implementation a lot. We're not there yet. I might have a couple of answers to a couple of logistic questions, but if we get deep in the weeds in implementation, we're just not there yet. And that's what we're looking for. How would we do this from you? So I'm going to leave it there. And just in general, do you have any reactions to the previous slide? Want to throw that back up again, Marie, and see if people have general reactions to it? Again, you can raise your hands. I can only see 5 people on my side, so I can't really tell. And there's also the chat function if you'd like to use the chat. I'm good with crickets. I'm good with silence. There's no reactions to these? First thoughts.
Oh, you wanted to mention something over here? I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Go ahead. Who is it? Gloria? Rachel?
Kathleen, on the screen, we have 2 people on the same screen. But yeah, we were thinking that it's really, really important for them to start building their professional development. Most of the educators over here in Stanford, Norwalk, they are on the need of that, as well as the technical assistance. So if we can implement something like that and think about it, how to do this, that would be excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel?
I was just gonna get it started and say that I'm most excited about us looking at higher education and both out of the programs as well as the in-service piece to it, and focusing on the professional development within programs as well. I think that's exciting because it gives opportunity in a multitude of ways.
Thank you. Any big ideas on how we would implement? How would we go about making sure that we provide in an in-service professional development way to build upon all the things that someone may be having in college courses for continuous learning? What would the state need?
Maybe more train the trainer opportunities.
Train the trainer?
So people can have in-house support that can keep with onboarding and keep up with it, because a lot of times there's a lag between, you know, people with the turnover and everything. This would allow in-house to handle it much faster.
So you're thinking of some in-house trainers or coaches or mentors that are housed within settings that could support onboarding as well as some content?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you think that any of the folks that are in-house would need any specialized skill set in order to provide that in-house?
I think so. I think it, if OEC could maybe provide the training to, you know, the specific group of people for them to be able to do that, and whether it's part of their own professional development goals, or maybe their leadership recognizes them for something that they're strong in and want to build those skills.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a good way for someone that's in a entry-level position that wants to get supervision or leadership access, but that's not to like move up a step. That's not always available. So this could be a way that could happen too. But I would say OEC would be definitely involved in that initial part and ensuring that it's on course and up to standard.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have comments about that approach? Kind of building from the setting within?
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Almanzar, and I'm a data provider for around 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 14 years with license in Stamford, Connecticut, but I coming from Massachusetts. And I know the way that we get some help in professional development was because for example, my agency was Catholic Charity, the one that I work for. They used to pay one teacher from, for example, Urban College, and then that person teach us different
Techniques.
course and things like child development, observing and recording,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of class. I have like 18 credit from Urban College and Aquinas College from Massachusetts. Was part of those credit was that way, because, you know, family daycare provider, they don't have too much time to go college in the morning, afternoon. But because the class coming from Urban College, we're gonna have time like 7 to 10. I used to go, you know, and I don't need to go to the college, but I was in an office from Catholic Charity, and then we get, you know, a lot of training, a lot of class, a lot of credit that way.
Mm-hmm. So more on site, like thinking about, you know, college coming to you.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And did you have people that you were together with as a group?
Oh yeah, we was like 20.
Okay.
every 6 months. It's like college, the same thing.
Yeah.
Instead we go to college, the college go to one place, They have few places, and for example, in Somerville, Massachusetts, we have 2 places to go. And then that's why I went to college like for maybe 9 credit, but the other was like that way.
Great.
I don't know if it's possible.
Thank you. That's a wonderful suggestion.
Yeah.
Hi, Deb, this is Patrice.
Hi, Patrice.
Hi, I think about this stuff all the time, and, I would really like to see if it is on site for staff, that there's a way to give them time within their day, so they don't have to go out at night or on the weekends to do their training, because we're already trying to staff a 50-hour week, it's just a lot. And I always think about this. The reason a lot of times they leave for other organizations is because it's like a 6-hour day and the summer's off and all that. We really need to think about a way to give staff more time within their paid time for this kind of, that's what I do now. I set things up so it's within their time, and we do have mentors on our site who work with other staff, but I really think it's a question of not having them have to come out at night and worked all day, or on the weekends. That would just be one of my suggestions.
So let's go a little bit further with that, Patrice. So what logistically for your business to still run, right? So if
Right.
staff were to have time during the day, and let's say you had a group or even people from different centers might create a group, in the same area, how then does the rest of the day happen for the children? Is there a substitute pool? How does that work?
I think there would have to be, because, we all know it's a very difficult job. So to feel more like a professional, to give them some release time away from the classroom is really treating them more like professionals. I just think they need to have, like, school systems shut down the school for the day. We can't do that, but we can do a few people at a time or bring in substitutes so that some people can go. I was thinking about, someone mentioned Nyack was in New York. When is it going to come back to New York? Well, what I did was I let, over the 3 days, I worked it out so staff could go each of the 3 days and everybody could get a chance to do at least one day at the conference. So, just kind of creative kind of things like that.
Sure. Yep. Great. Thanks, Patrice.
I also wanted to make a suggestion for Jacqueline. Jacqueline was mentioning about the classes being in the evening, and that will work better for home daycares. I don't know about centers, because they are so eager to learn, but they don't have the time during the day. So it will be excellent if there was an opportunity for them to join a class after, around 7 o'clock, like Jacqueline was mentioning. So I understand what Patrice says, but it's very hard for them to leave their home daycare and take a class during the day.
Yeah, you may not have other staff or a pool of people that could substitute for you because you are the person at your site.
That is correct.
Yep. Thank you. Any reactions to using the NAEYC professional standards and competencies? And if you're not familiar with them, they're easily found on NAEYC's Power to Profession section of the website. Higher education institutions are using them. They've used them for years, actually, and the new set came out in 2020. I think, and others on the call, if you're familiar with them, you can comment on them. They are much more broad, actually, but yet much more specific, if that makes sense. They are broad, yet they are specific. And higher education institutions are already making the shift to using those standards and competencies as the basis of their early childhood coursework. And what this is saying here is to say, okay, let's really think about using those same standards and competencies also for in-service. So you're looking at sort of like a progression of not only coming from potentially an institution that has used the standards, but also building on those when you get into the field or a part of the field to deepen your knowledge and competencies using the NEOIC framework. It's pretty universal, so I didn't expect a lot of let's use a different set of standards, but I'm just making sure that we're not missing anything.
This is Patrice again. Yeah, I don't know. I've been here for so long. I remember when someone would come down to the center and meet with staff individually, and they would work on certain subject areas. So it could be like the competency areas, and they would get like 1 credit through Eastern, I think it was. But that was a way to do it too, where that they got credits for the work that they did, even if it wasn't a full 3 credits. And, then it would add up. Some of them were able to transfer it if they went to, I'm not sure. I think if they went to Gateway, they could. It was in the 80s, or early 90s. That was a long time ago. But that was something that was doable because she would meet with 1 staff person at a time.
So sort of credit for experience at the same time they're taking in-service, and it's a very specifically designed set of in-service.
It was in service, but it would meet the competencies,
Got it.
like child development, but maybe it was 1 credit of child development, but it was a credit at least.
Yep. Is everyone familiar with the designations, early childhood educator 1, 2, and 3? It's not particularly in this group, but it relates to this group regarding the credentialing. Oh, thanks, Marie. Awesome. You've got the power. Relating to the EC1, EC2, and EC3. So you see it there on the left-hand side. The ECE1 is about 120 training hours, and it's equivalent. It's as if it's a CDA. Okay, and the ECE2 is an associate's degree, and the ECE3 is the bachelor's degree. And what Deb Fliss was describing is to adopt that those would be the roles, those would be the requirements, and then everything else would fall in line from that. And then we would need to figure out about how do we take our current field, our current folks that might not fall specifically into those designations, and think about professional development, think about degree pathways, and think about our career ladder in such a way that the current workforce is recognized. But those roles, the role of the early childhood educator is tied to a specific degree, and it's an early childhood degree. And the 120 hours is basically the CDA. I just wanted to kind of go back to that a little bit, because now thinking about the work, a little fast forward into the professional development pathways and technical assistance, we'd be building off of this structure. So expecting that the field would have their training hours, have their degrees, how would then the professional development system support the continued learning for people who already had an EC1, EC2, and EC3? So I just want to kind of go back and anchor that a little bit to see if there's any other things that might spark your brain to comment on.
Okay, it's Patrice again.
Hi,
If
Patrice.
I don't want to monopolize whatever anybody else wants to talk about, but what about the people? I know all our goal is to have early childhood, obviously be the degree, but what about the people who are changing careers and want to like already have a bachelor's in psychology? Should they get the the CDA 12 credits? How would they fit into that?
So again, we didn't go over a lot of implementation, but one of the things that the work group is trying to think about is where do we take our current workforce? And our current workforce, you just mentioned folks that might have a degree, and 12 early childhood credits are the typical, right, to qualify for the role of a teacher, especially in a state-funded program. How does that fit into this structure? And what would be the supports to do what, to what end? And so we need some thinking around that, and that's why I pose it. So you're exactly right. What does happen? What would be your suggestions in taking someone who might be from another field and might have a few credits? Where would you see them? How would Connecticut build a structure behind this to support people becoming an early childhood educator 1, 2, or 3?
Well, something like the alternate route or early child,
Yep.
like the art programs do right now for certification.
Right. So you have an alternative route. Robert, looks like you might have something to say. I see you took your mic off.
I had something to ask, basically.
Sure.
Does Connecticut have articulation agreements that that guarantee transfer of credits among the higher education institutions? You know?
Carmelita's nodding her head. You just happened to be on my screen, Carmelita. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, Robert, there is an articulation between the community colleges and three or four of the state universities. However, I'm going to put a caveat. Because the community colleges are going to be consolidated effective July 1st, there's a lot of things that are up in the air that we're still working on. And one of it is the articulation that we're hoping will not disappear, but it's an articulation that we've had since 1995.
Right.
So do you have any solutions, Robert? Any big ideas on how to sort of like keep articulation in the forefront so it's seamless for folks that are going through a program and transferring?
Right. I mean, it is very important. I don't know how you actually do it, but I've seen that it's, that a lot of states have them, and they're helpful because you don't have to worry about transferring from one institution's, going for a CDA, or if you're going for an associate's degree, you can move through the pathway in a smooth way. So, but I don't know how to do it. I wish.
I know, huh? We all had, we could make our dreams come true. So Marie, if you can forward back to the slide that has the 3 bullets for professional pathways, and I can give a little bit more information here. So I go back to the standards and competencies, and right now all of our, well, except one actually, but our community colleges and our 4-year college degree programs, early childhood degree programs, are engaged in NAEYC accreditation for their institution. Okay, so that I think is a wonderful thing, and we had meetings about if we're all adopting the same standards, that should be a same basis by which we could look at from someone moving to a community college to a bachelor's degree college. Right? We're using the same standards. The bachelor's degree is more in depth, it's more research focused, but you're using the same base standards. And what role do our key assessments and the experiences that are to be developing in courses in the associate degree and the bachelor's degree program, is there conversations to be had there for some alignment or some building or structure that could support articulation between associate's degree and bachelor's degree? So this sort of goes back to the idea of, if we're adopting the NAYC professional standards and competencies, it gives us all a great base from which to work with that would support such a thing as articulation. So I hold out hope, Carmelita, that everything will be worked out, you know, between the merging and all of our great colleges at the bachelor's level, taking on students from CT State and being able to seamlessly articulate. How that translates to out of state, I think there's work that needs to be done there. So I see we have about, I think, 12 minutes left. Is that, I think that's correct, Maria, if I'm reading that correctly. And I want to make sure that we don't skip over anything. So back to the questions that we had, we've got some ideas down on some possible solutions to things. Oh, there you go. How about the role of leadership? Thinking about the role of early childhood leaders and the role they play in establishing quality, equitable, and accessible professional pathways and technical assistance. We're trying to lift up the role of leaders in programs and leadership in general, and would love your ideas on what role leaders can play. You're all thinking, I can tell.
I think leadership needs to have, I can't think of what the word is, knowledge, I guess, of what is most up to date and out there for opportunities. I know a lot of times when I was a leader, I would hear about things kind of like through the grapevine, but maybe a little too late, and I couldn't offer it to everybody, or just wasn't quite sure who would qualify for what. So I think if we could create a more like comprehensive like communication line to the field and to the leaders of what is actually available and who can apply to it and when, it might be helpful. Some of it I think is just maybe missed opportunity of not aware of what's out there, depending on how involved you are in the system.
Thank you, Rachel. And is there any opinion or suggestions around what you feel leaders should know and be able to do? I mean, we focus on the early childhood educator, right, with EC 1, 2, or 3. What is it that we're thinking about regarding our leaders, administrators of programs? That's an area to really delve into. And we've got a few things sort of percolating regarding program leadership, but would love some creative solutions around how leaders are cultivated in the field and knowledge and competencies that perhaps professional development could support in building leadership. So I just throw that out there for some idea generation or interesting things that maybe people have engaged in the past regarding any leadership work. Rachel, you're suggesting perhaps a director credential, more director credential opportunities?
Yeah, I know they come around every so often, but they kind of fill up fast. And I know in past positions I had managers that were very skilled and had a lot of things, and they would look forward to that, but it didn't come around as often for them to be able to take advantage of that.
Yep. Okay.
So this is Patrice. What about if you're having those three steps for classroom staff, then shouldn't the leader have at least obtained the top one of those? Because right now it's like you only need so many credits in early childhood to be a director. So you may find that your staff, your leadership, has less credentialing than your staff.
Thoughts on that, friends on the call? I'm going up and down the list. I know many people on the call might have an opinion. It's okay to put something on chat and speak up. What are your thoughts on that? Should leaders of programs have reached at least an ECE2 or ECE3 specifically, or something else? We have a yes. Others? ECE3 at the minimum. Okay. And I also am wondering on the business side of things, right? So many of our program leaders also run a business, as I think many of you on the call can attest to. And you don't necessarily get that in your bachelor's degree program specifically, around running a business. So how does that sort of fit in? Is it a professional development after the fact? Is it tied to programming at the college level? Where does that sort of sit?
Well,
Administration, leadership, finance courses. Yep.
Yeah, this is Patrice. They also have to have supervision. There's a whole bunch of credentialing or courses or whatever you want to do that you should have to take to be a leader, to move up to that role. It shouldn't be that someone who's an aide in one program can be the director in another. There has to be some kind of standard.
So I'm hearing a possible standard for leaders. And do you, as we went back and forth with, does it have to be a minimum of a bachelor's degree in the area of early childhood plus? Is it some early childhood and this other stuff? There's a whole bunch of things we could probably explore a little bit that we would love your input about. Is there experience tied to this work for leaders? Something to percolate. And you can always email me. I know I just put that out there, Marie, and you're probably saying, Deb, don't say that. But I do know, I think probably 90% of the people on this call. And they have my email. So you could always, it's hard to answer these questions in the moment, and you can sleep on them. And in a week, get back to me and say, hey, Deb, that question you asked about leaders, I did some thinking on that. And feel free to email me with some of your ideas and links to things and whatnot. We really are looking for resources and solutions to things. So I'm going to put you in the hot seat. If you were me and you at Office of Early Childhood and you were implementing the professional development technical assistance system at the Office of Early Childhood, what would be your first step to implement any of these new ideas?
I think the first thing would be trying to maybe take a survey of the group and the people that are already in the system to see what their thoughts are with what's worked and what hasn't worked and where they're currently at.
Nice, thank you. Yep. I'm happy to share my desk. Come and share ideas. Help to implement. I know the first thing that I would say, I'm just going to put it out there, is probably systems funding to be able to fund both the ability for faculty to do their work, right, and professional development to do their work in a sustainable way would be one of the first things, and then decide fund what, right? So we know we're going to change the system, but we need to fund something. So I know we talk a lot about compensation for the educator roles, and to be thinking about if we had a professional pathways and technical assistance system to support everybody in their roles, what would that look like and how would we fund it?
You know, this is Patrice again. I would like to see something where if people were in those roles training other people, there was incentive for them to stay in the programs so that you're not having everybody move out to a trainer level and a consultant and training the people in the programs, but so that the leadership is seen as someone who is professional and has the ability to train. That would just be, I think that's the, you know, the way, to improve programs. What happens now is like mostly everybody just leaves to go to a higher position. Why, how do we make that director role as something that's seen as, you know, a place you want to be?
So I'm not sure if people are familiar with the McCormick leadership model of a leader that focuses on kids and families, the pedagogical sort of the everyday structure of things, and then a leader that focuses on the business side, the fiscal side, the grant side, and they work in concert together, but there's actually two people. So that was sort of like an interesting model to look at. I'm not sure if folks have thought about thinking of leadership in more than just one person. It's just something to sort of percolate on for a bit. But I see we're sort of running down on time, 26 seconds, and I think Luis is going to zip us back. I think that's how this goes. We're going to teleport back to the main room. But please email me with suggestions that you may have. And thank you so much for providing some solutions-based ideas. And I hope that we're going to hear from you again. And 116 seconds, we're going to leave the room. That is the most seconds I think I have ever seen in a breakout room to leave the room to go to someplace else. And I believe, Marie, do you have anything else to add, Marie? You have some stuff in chat, I think, that you captured.
Yep, we captured the things in chat. I think there will also be some sort of follow-up mechanism as well, likely some sort of survey. So, you know, opportunities, have not ended to give feedback. And this is a part of a long, year-long process as well.
Fantastic. So everyone doesn't have to email me all at once on the same day and I get flooded with emails. So there'll be plenty of opportunities. Well, thank you, everyone. It was nice to see some familiar faces, names on the screen here tonight. And again, keep thinking, keep thinking solutions, and we're happy to take your suggestions. And I'll see you back in the main room. Take care, everyone.